how to make flight training work for you. How can you support your training to gain more per hour and dollar? How can you finish faster and come up as a stronger pilot? These are the 3 questions that we are going to answer today. How to make flight training work for you. If you get one thing from what I am going to share with you today, is understanding the flight training process. I call this process the loop. Unless you understand the flight training process, you are going to go through frustrating struggles. You want absolute power over your progress in flight training? Understand the flight training process. Understand the loop. The loop keeps you on a roll. The loop keeps your learning process moving forward once it begins, and make setbacks like nothing to worry about. And my favorite part is the loop helps you build momentum, because growing and expanding your pilot capabilities is like changing orbits. And to change orbits, we need momentum. This loop is not about pushing harder. It's about being the pilot flying the loop and being focused to fly the loop. So, to answer the question, how can we make flight training work for you? We need to understand the structure or the rules. The structure is very important. I'm going to give you the structure. And to do that, I need to share my screen. Okay, that should work. Okay, so the structure of the flight training process begins with one question. What should the pilot be able to do? If you don't know what you should be able to do, your investment may go into training that will not count towards your goals. A common case is when students are forced to redo some or all of their training requirements. And redoing 20 hours or restarting all over again is not uncommon at all. This is thousands wasted. Ouch. Knowing what you should be able to do is the beginning point, because we want to be very, very intentional about it. Flight training expenses accrue fast, and everybody knows that flight training is expensive. So the next question is, well, how are we going to go about it? How can we prove that you have acquired the skill to do what you should be able to do? To answer this question, well, the answer to this question is owned by your instructor, okay? The person that is in charge to direct your flights. And it's an important question to answer. As a student, it is important to know that your instructor has planned for building up your skill so that you can do what you should be able to do. The plan comes in the form of a binder with a bunch of lesson plans, or plan lessons to take you from 0 to hero. When the plan is made to maximize learning, the flight is executed efficiently, but most importantly is executed safely, because you sure know that your instructor thought a lot about how are you going to go about it. Now, here we have to be careful, because there is, in this part of the flight training process, there is a strong push from the old system to focus on checking boxes and logging flight hours. So you have to be very, very careful in this part of the flight training process. Now, we all know that the old system stopped being about learning a while ago, which actually makes it very difficult for students, instructors, and even flight schools to treat flight training as a valuable investment. But that's exactly what it is. Flight training is an investment, and students, instructors, and schools need to understand how best to learn, which leads to the next piece in the flight training process: execution. Our favorite part. Execution is all about how we use our time. That time is an asset. Without a plan that is focused on learning, a lot of time and money will leak here in the execution part, turning lessons that should be 1 hour into 2 or more hours, or even worse, graduate pilots that are like, The question is, well, can we turn our time into a skill? Can we turn our time into a skill? Hey, you all, I am looking for messages for questions and answers you want me to address in future videos. Please submit your messages in our subreddit, NoShamePilotDebrief, where you can post about your flight training journey. I'm going to leave the link to our subreddit in the description so that you can post about your flight training journey or anything you like me to address in a future video. Execution is only one piece of the flight training process. Without following through, most of it goes to waste, because memory is limited. Actually, research shows that most of our brain deletes details within 20 minutes, and that 70% of an experience may be gone within 24 hours. Without following through within this small cognition window, you are literally letting your lesson fly away. We follow through to answer 3 questions. What can you gain from what went well? What can you gain from what didn't go well? And what changes can I do to how I do things? Everything we do in flight training is to arrive to the singular point where we become conscious about what we've just learned and the things we can do to improve. So all of those regulations, lesson plans, flight hours, and gadgets. Nothing matters if we don't follow through. To become a strong pilot, you follow through. In flight test, it will be pointless to test fly an airplane without documenting its merits, its issues, or recommending fixes. If we fail to keep those flight records and follow through, new aircraft will slip into service with flaws, possibly endangering lives and property. This is the flight training process. If the loop breaks, you create holes that drain your money, time, confidence, and energy. Your mission is to keep the loop continuous while you expand your capabilities. So that leads to the next question. How can you support your training to gain more per hour and dollar? Well, for the first half of the loop, being in the same page with your instructor is important because you are part of the flight crew. You are part of the flight crew. The whole training plan is for you. Have it in hand, have it in your pocket. Okay? So that takes care of this aspect. For execution, I actually have to make a separate video to talk about readiness, mental conditioning, and how to code your new pilot brain. So that can be a whole video on its own. For the second part of the loop, you can improve your recall. Yeah, you can improve your recall with tools which will make it easier to access like crucial sensorial data and allow you to relive your flight experience. Hopefully with most sensorial data, such as what you were feeling, the accelerations in your body, the motion, the feel of the airplane, rotations, blah blah blah. As long as you do it within 24 hours or less, when your sensorial data is most vivid and available. Any analysis you do past this cognitive window can become very, very subjective because recall will decrease even if you have access to flight data. That sensorial information, the details are crucial. So do it within your cognitive window. Now, for this part of the flight training process, got a question? Ask. Want to discuss? Discuss. Want help? Ask for help. You're meant to be learning, to make mistakes, and to want answers. Heck, you're not supposed to know anything. Ask your instructor, ask your buddies, ask me. Build your own trusted pilot community and discuss flights. That's how you can support this part of the process. And when you get it, take note, especially if there is anything you can change to improve. Don't rely on your memory. because I think there is just a lot of information that is thrown at us. Don't rely on your memory. Document your merits, your issues, and recommend the changes. The whole point of flight training is to integrate what you've learned into prepping for your next flight. So that's how you support each piece of the flight training process. But the most powerful way to support your training is having a personal system that will give you the structure to maintain your loop continuity, repeating the process again and again and again as a habit. So how can you finish faster and become a stronger pilot? It's not about pushing harder. It's not about the grind that has become so popular. It's not about more rules or buying nice stuff. It's about finding the right support. And that's why I developed the FlyORKA app. The FlyORKA app will help you turn this loop into habits and habits into the pilot you want to become. And whether you are a student or an instructor, the FlyORKA app gives you full autonomy, allowing you to exercise true control over your flight training situation and have a lot more fun. So, what would you like your training to look like? Are you happy with the direction you are moving? You you know flight training is for you. I mean, it's a process you should enjoy, and you can do it by being the pilot flying the loop and focusing on flying the loop. If you do that, you will move in the direction you want to go. The loop, this loop is all about being proud of your learning process. That's the only metric that matters in this loop. Whether you are a student or an instructor or a school, the big question is, are you someone who is proud of their own learning process? Fly the loop. Once you understand that, I hope it will help you break the chains that make learning to fly a struggle and keep pushing you back, or keep pushing so many student pilots back, when you should be enjoying the process and having a blast with all your peers and all your friends around you. The best thing about this is that you don't have to change anything. We don't have to break anything. We don't have to change anything external to us. You just have to unlock it. And this is why I built the FlyORKA app. And I know you can do it. Fly the loop.